Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and in this video what I want to do is just talk about some of the new features that are coming out in ES2020. I've talked about a few of them in the past, such as optional chaining and nulling, or the nullish coalescing operator, but there's a few other ones that are going to be interesting and I think are worth going over. Now I'm going to assume that these features have already been adapted into TypeScript, so I'm going to try to use TypeScript to illustrate them. But they may have not been incorporated into TypeScript yet, so we'll find out. If not, you're just going to have to wait till they're implemented for you to be able to use them. But let's find out. So let me open up a console so we can test out our code. Okay. And then let me just cd into the right folder, cd TypeScript. Okay, so I got my TypeScript file geared up. The first one we're going to talk about is Object. Well, first we're going to talk about the original feature that came out in 2017, which is Object.entries. So this is a static method of the object prototype. If you don't know what prototypes are, I highly recommend watching the videos from the Fun Function YouTube channel about prototypes. I'll do a video on prototypes as well, but I think he explained it pretty well over several videos that really will give you a deep understanding of JavaScript. But to give you sort of the quick shorthand of what prototypes are, is that in most programming languages, classes are like a blueprint. So basically they're like, well, if you want to create an object, this is what you do to create that object. In JavaScript, there really isn't a blueprint. Basically, everything is an object. So a prototype, so classes in JavaScript are really just syntactical sugar, meaning it's just a veil over prototypes. And what the way a prototype works is that an object, any object in JavaScript, can name another object as its prototype. And what happens is that if I were to say object, this object dot whatever property, it's first going to check that object to see that we've defined that property on that object specifically. And if it's not on that property, it then goes to the prototype object, takes a look at if it was defined there, and then if not, it'll go check that object's prototype, and it'll just keep going on until there's no longer any prototypes, and then it'll be like, hey, this property doesn't exist. So really, it's kind of like, I like the idea of like a cosigner, kind of like basically you have a debt that is this property. I asked for this property, and you need to give it to me, and if you don't have it, your cosigner is liable for it. And if they have a cosigner, we'll go to them, and we'll keep doing it till we get that thing from you, that variable, that method. So instead of classes being one blueprint to create one class that has all those methods and properties, what you're doing is you're creating a chain of objects. And I'm going to go look at object 1 to see if that property or method's there. Then I'm going to look at object 2, object 3, but I can call all of those objects and properties across all those objects from the object all the way at the bottom of the chain. So that's the whole prototype thing. Okay, so everything kind of, so whenever you hear this like object.prototype or object this, object that, that's essentially what's going on under the hood. That's why this behaves so weird in JavaScript, because this always refers to the object that initiated the call chain. So even though you define the method on this object, if you refer to that property on an object down the chain, that's going to be what this is. And that's why when you use a method from a class on an event, that event becomes this, not the original class object, because it's a prototype. Okay, so technically that class is a prototype of that call. Okay, that's what's going on under the hood. Cool. So the feature that was introduced in 2017 is called Object.entries. And what this does, it takes an object and breaks it down into an array. So if I were to give it an object, let's say I gave it this object. So actually, let's do this. Console.log, and then inside of it, we're going to console log the return value of Object.entries, and then it's going to break down the following object: name, Alex, age, 34. Cool. And let me put my semicolon. And essentially what this should be doing is that this is going to take this object and turn it into an array of key value pairs. So basically each entry in the array will be another array where the first element is the key and the second value is the value. Okay, so let's run that. That should work. That was introduced back in 2017. So ts node practice.ts. Okay, let that run. I could have just done node, would have been faster because it's a JavaScript thing. Object is declared here. I guess it's supposed to be uppercase object. Save. I'll just do node this time. Practice.ts. Yep, and there you go. See, it breaks it down into an array of key value pairs. So that's already been around. But what if you wanted to do the opposite? So what if I wanted to take that array and turn it back into an object? That's going to be new. So console.log. Instead it's going to be Object.fromEntries. And that's going to return you an object based on an array of key value pairs. So if I were to put this array in there, it's going to treat the first array, key value, make it a property, key value, make it a property, and then return us an object. But I feel like I have too many parentheses here, so let's examine this. So that parentheses, actually that's going to match that. This parentheses matches this. Good. Okay, so we're good. So let's save it. And there you go. See, in this case, it turned that array back into an object. Cool. Okay, so now you have that. That's new. But it looks like I could do it with Node. So maybe by installing Typescript, it just added Node's ability to do that. So that's good. Okay, but that's a new spec in ES2020. Next, let's talk about flat. Now what flat does, it takes a multi-dimensional array, so it's console.log flat. And what flat does, it's going to take an array that's not flat and make it flat. So for example this. So we're going to say first property, first entry is 1, then we have an array that says 1, 2, then the third property is 3, then the fourth property is an array that says 4, 5, with a third property that's another array of 1, 2. Okay, so that's a complicated array. What flat will do is going to flatten that array and make it just one array of one level, and then just give each property its spot. So we have this complicated array. I just do this. Okay, and that time it didn't do it. Let's just see if I have any syntax error. None that I see. So let's try it in TypeScript. .ts. Okay, let that run for a moment. And we got it. Here we go. From entries. What does it say? Property from entries does not exist on type object constructor. Interesting. Looks like TypeScript hasn't implemented yet. Property entries does not exist on type object constructor. Interesting. Well, I'll comment those out for the moment. Save. Because we did see that it worked when I used Node. It might have to do some typing issue, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. We just want to test out flat and see if flat works. Cannot find name flat. Okay, I guess it's not implemented yet, but theoretically, what's supposed to happen is the following. And actually, there is. I do have to adjust this. Actually, let's first just define the array. So my array equals. Let's just assign the array over here. Technically, it's actually an array method, not a standalone. So let's do that. So in that case, it should be my array dot flat. And then here you could put a property of like how deep. So just leaving it empty, it's going to flatten the whole thing into one level. So we'll do this twice so we can see the difference. Here I'll put in 2, so that way it won't go, it'll only flatten the third level, it'll keep the first and second level deep of the array. Okay, let's scroll down. Let's run it. Array is declared here. Let's see what it says. My array, did you mean array? No. Oh, that's right. Thank you, Typescript, for keeping me honest. Okay. I gotta make sure I actually declare my variable. Oh, JavaScript. That allows me to be so lazy sometimes. Okay. But TypeScript, you always bring me back up to shape. Oh, it's still not happy. Our flat does not exist on type. Okay, so it's probably not in. Let's try with node real quick. See if that makes a difference. Okay, that one worked. So let's see here. The first one, flatten the array by... Oh, okay, so only flattens it by default one level. So flattened everything down to the next level. This one flattened it out to 2 levels, so just made it one big array. So let's see here. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. So everything became one big array. So that's how that's going to work. Okay, so it looks like everything seems to be implemented in Node already. That's good. Cool. Those are the main features I wanted to talk about. So I think we've covered enough for this video. I'll see you guys later on. But those are some cool JavaScript features to be aware of and very useful. There's also FlatMap, okay, which is basically a mix of map and flat. So let's say, what's a good way? Imagine you're going through an array of arrays. So let's say I wanted to do this. So we'll say my array 2 equals an array, and this first element is an array with 1 and 2. Then it's another array with 1 and 3. Then it's another array of 1 and 4. Okay. Now let's say I just wanted an array basically of all the non-1 numbers. I could use map, and I could then use filter within that map to filter the numbers. Problem is, depending on the result would be I'd end up getting I'd get 3 arrays with 1 taken out. So I'd still have an array of arrays, which would just be 3 one-element arrays being returned. Okay, but I want a flat array, so that's where FlatMap comes in. So I could do the same thing. So let's do this. Let's console log this. Console.log my array 2 dot flatMap. Okay. Then we put a callback. We'll just say item equals filter, or well, equals item dot filter, and then we put another callback, and we'll call this set, and it'll return anything that is not 1. Return is set not equal to 1. Okay, so if it's not equal to 1, it'll return true. Oh wait, this. Yeah, it's not equal to 1, then it'll return true and keep that value. So it'll go through. So basically, what's going to happen is that I'm creating a new array, and it's going to go through each element. So it's going to map through each one of these, but then in each one of these, it's going to filter out anything that's not 1. Okay, so actually, let me first do it as a, well, I'll just copy and paste this. So we can see the difference between this and if I just did a normal map. And then let me comment that out. Save. Okay, and that map should be lowercase. Okay. So in the first one, we should get an array with single element arrays. In the second one, we should just get a nice flat array. Assuming I don't have any syntax errors. Which, of course, there would be. A filter cannot read property filter. Filter. Am I spelling filter wrong? Looks like it's spelled right. I should be able to find it because each item should be an array, because each element in my array 2 is an array, so I should be able to go back and run a filter on that array. Feeling like there's a little too many parentheses in there. Yeah. Let's take that out. Item.filter. And then take out, I don't think we need this. Set. Just map all these out. So that's going to map up with that. That's going to map up with this, and we should be able to get rid of all the other. Should be 3, so 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that works for me. Let's copy and paste that again. Okay, let's get rid of flat, lowercase map. Save, and let's try this again. Okay. Still the same thing. So here's how I want to test this out. I'm going to make another copy of this. Except, and I'm going to comment out these two since they're erroring. And what we're going to do instead is we're just going to console log item. Because my assumption is that item is supposed to be an array, so I should be able to run filter. But maybe it's not. Console.log item. And again, I always like to work through the bugs together so that way you can see the process of working these things out. Okay, so let's see here. Put a semicolon. Let's save it. Let's run down. Do this. Okay, interesting. So console log the first one, which is 1, 2. Oh, there is this. That would make a difference. Save. There was a comma missing in my array. Now let's see here, because I could see it did console log the first one, but then I had a problem with the second one. Okay, so that tells me that the problem before is that it didn't consider the second item an array, and which is why I was complaining with it. There was no filter property. So now let's just run that console log again, make sure that it's console log everything. And oh, okay, I see. And then it returns nothing because I didn't return anything. I got it. Okay, so let's uncomment these out. We should be back in good order. And let's do that. And there you can see the difference. Okay, so you see when I did just map, it returned me an array of arrays, and they're single element arrays. But what if I wanted it flattened? Okay, I would have to map it and then run flat on it, which I could do, but isn't it nice just to have one function that just kind of does that all in one fell swoop, and my code is just so much prettier that way. Okay, now I have it in one array that I can just use. That's pretty cool. So these are sort of newer JavaScript features, part of the ES2020 specification. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this, learned some new tricks. My name is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. Have a great day and enjoy.